Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. We're just days away from the showdown at the O2 between Dillian Whyte and Dereck Chisora, and Dereck Chisora is talking up his chances of stopping Dillian Whyte in this much anticipated rematch, says he's going to stop him. And if you haven't caught my video that I dropped recently, Dillian Whyte vs Dereck Chisora, 10 things to watch for, make sure to check that out. I cover the fight in depth, 10 different things to watch for. That style of video is going to be a recurring video ahead of big fights, so make sure to check that one out if you already haven't. But I would just note, I'm just wondering how much interest is there for this fight between Dereck Chisora and Dillian Whyte. On YouTube and online, I was expecting to see a bit more buzz, a bit more hype. It seems to have been a bit understated and a bit muted this time around. Certainly there hasn't been the same controversy, there's been no tables thrown yet, all that sort of stuff. There hasn't been the bad blood, and the gloves are off. I watched that recently, and that was terrible. That's one of the worst ones I've ever seen. It was absolutely dire. And I just wonder, has all of that, you know, with Dereck Chisora sort of calming down now, being a born-again Christian and whatnot, has that actually sort of taken a little bit of the oomph away from what could have been a very tasty and nasty build-up? And that obviously helped sell that fight previously in terms of an interest point of view. But I just wonder, has the interest, is it just a bit lower this time? Certainly with the number of videos and the number of people talking about this fight, it seems to be a bit less than I was expecting. It's a bit down, especially for a big fight in the heavyweight division, because this is a big fight for the heavyweight division. These guys are, you know, two top 20 guys. I think Dereck Chisora is just outside of the top 15 in my view. Some people would have him towards the top 10 or so, and Dillian Whyte firmly inside the top 10. But I have been surprised that it's been a little bit muted. But if you're from the UK, is there a lot of buzz and interest for this fight? Has that been bubbling up in the past few days, past couple of weeks? Is this something that people are really looking forward to? Because more broadly, from me being an outsider looking in, based here back in New Zealand, you know, watching things on the internet, watching my own analytics from videos about these guys, doesn't seem to be nearly as much interest as I was expecting. But in terms of what Dereck Chisora is saying, Chisora is vowing to come after Dillian Whyte in grudge match. That's the headline of the Sky Sports article. So we'll start with this, and then we'll get on to some thoughts from Anthony Joshua, because he is backing Dereck Chisora to whoop Dillian Whyte. We know there's no love lost there. Anthony Joshua, he doesn't really like Dillian Whyte that much. He wants to rematch and he wants to beat him up. But we'll go back to this first story. So Dereck Chisora says, "No, I'm going to take him out. I don't know, but I will take him out. The first fight was special. This one is going to be amazing. It's going to be so amazing that you aren't going to want to sit down. That's how much confidence I have in myself. By the time the bell goes ding, 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 I'm going to come after him. I'm not going to run away. I'm going to run into him, and we'll get it on." And what else is he saying here? Sometimes you need a bit of a change. Change is good for everybody. Certain things have changed in my life, and this was one of the changes. David has, and that's David Hay, has sorted the program out and said, this is how hard you have to work to get what you want. And Don Charles, Dereck Chisora's trainer, he's also quoted saying, "Chisora has listened to Hay. Collectively, we've taken on board what Hay has brought. He as a fighter and me as a trainer, we've worked harmoniously." That's interesting, given Hay broke his jaw a number of years ago. It seems like a bit of an odd coupling between Hay and Chisora, and then throw Don Charles in there as well. You got that trio of guys. A few years ago, you wouldn't have really sort of thought this would ever happen. But in terms of what Dereck Chisora is saying, that he's going to come after Dillian Whyte, he's going to stop him, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think there's going to be a degree of that, but I also think Chisora will be cognizant that he can't just empty his tank, because that's what effectively he did in the first fight. He ended up taking a number of the later rounds. I think round 8 was one for me that stood out. He took half a round off. He really just rested. He tried to get his win back, and that probably cost him the fight. He lost that by a split decision, that fight. And 1 or 2 half rounds here and there later on the fight where he did take the foot off the gas to recover, I think that did hurt his cause. I still had him winning that fight. But, you know, obviously the judges saw it a different way. A lot of people did have Dereck Chisora winning that first fight, and perhaps Whyte was lucky to come away with it. But certainly it was a very good fight of the year candidate, and many people are hoping to see a repeat performance. But I'm not so sure we're going to get this. Sure, in these quotes, Dereck Chisora is talking a good game. He's going to, you know, take him out. He's going to go after him, all that sort of stuff. But Dereck Chisora will be aware that, you know, this is last chance saloon for him. And he's had a few of those sort of moments. But with a guy with 8 losses, and potentially Anthony Joshua could be the next fight if he beats Dillian Whyte, they're going to go into this with a smart game plan. They're not going to want to just completely go for broke, be reckless, and get knocked out later in the fight because he was gassing. And certainly it looks like from the training clips that he's whipped himself into near career best shape, if not career best shape. And he's going to leave it all in the ring. I'm not convinced it's going to be enough though. I think Chisora, he is shot worn. He was shot worn a couple of years ago. I think Dillian Whyte, he's improved. He's not as reckless as he once was. There's still an element of that, but I think Dillian Whyte has gotten better since the first fight, and I think he's going to really put it on Chisora, and I think some of the body work, especially early on, is going to pay dividends for Dillian Whyte later in that fight. And certainly with his shoulder, it seems to be better now. Potentially the punching power might be a bit more than it was in that first fight, especially with that left hook. But in terms of what Anthony Joshua is saying, he expects Chisora, who he is friends with, to whoop Dillian Whyte. So if we go to the quotes here, I think Dereck is going to whoop Dillian. I want him to. I want Chisora to win. I don't want too much good for Dillian because he's an enemy of mine, but I want Dillian to win as well so we can have our rematch. Can it be as good this time around? Yes. I think it will be better in terms of boxing skill. I think they will be a little more cautious. They know what each other can do. They gave a lot and took a lot the first time around. They learned from the first one. They put a lot on the line. In the second one, they will refine their skills. It will be a lot more technical. And I'll just start there. I actually agree with Anthony Joshua wholeheartedly there. I don't think this is going to be a sort of, you know, ring the bell round 1. It'll be round 13 picking up where they left off. I think they will be more cautious. I think they will be more economical. It will be a bit more technical and not so much a slugfest. There will be some slugging, I'm sure, in different parts of the fight where they look to get on top. But I think, you know, for the most part, it could actually be a real sort of cat and mouse sort of chess match. There's a lot on the line for both guys. The first time around, nowhere near as much on the line. This time it's a pay-per-view, millions of dollars, and potential millions of dollars to be earned the next fight out, potentially against Anthony Joshua at Wembley in April. And that would be a career-defining fight next. So there is just so much on the line, so much pressure. These guys are going to come in shape. They're going to have their game plans. They're going to look to wear the other down, wear them out, potentially take them out. But, you know, I could see Dillian Whyte getting a stoppage. I'm not so convinced about Dereck Chisora. I think Dillian Whyte is going to really put the foot on the pedal early on, try to make Chisora work. I think he'll try to land some really precision body shots. He's going to try chop the tree down. Okay, if we go to the next bit though, Joshua says, when it sparks, it will really kick off. When it sparks, it will go crazy because of that passion. They don't like each other. It all comes out in the ring. They can't knock each other out. They have old school granite chins. I'm not sure I quite agree with that. I mean, Dillian Whyte, he's been knocked out before. Dereck Chisora, he's been knocked out before. So, you know, they do have decent chins, but they can be put down. They can be hurt. They can be taken out. And I do favour Dillian Whyte to knock out Dereck Chisora if there is going to be a knockout. And really, if he's to build any buzz for a Wembley fight with Joshua, he needs a dominant performance. It's as simple as that, because if he goes life and death with Chisora again, it's not going to be a good look for Dillian Whyte, considering Dereck Chisora is a bit shot-worn. He's not in the prime of his career. Joshua continues, I think it's the risk and reward factor. When you look at the situation, it's a big risk and the reward has to outweigh your risk. I think in their eyes, I think that's all it comes down to with these guys. It's quite interesting. I've started to notice that there's a lot of tension that has been building up with their camp and the fight in itself, watching what we've been achieving. Yeah, I don't know how much tension's been building up. I actually thought this, as I noted earlier, this build-up has been relatively sedate compared to the first one. And I actually think that's probably been a strategy that Chisora has been trying not to get under Dillian Whyte's skin. I think that's been part of what they're trying to do. Their mental warfare, I think that's a David Hay factor. I think they want to keep it as sedate as possible, not get Dillian Whyte worked up, not get Chisora worked up, because that will feed Dillian Whyte and his ego and what he wants to do. I think it is sort of there's a bit of brinkmanship here going on in terms of the way that they've been acting towards each other. But I do expect it to be a good fight, and it's going to be one of the very good fights to end 2018. Another fight this weekend, Dominic Breazeale, he's fighting, but apart from that, you know, there is no other really significant heavyweight fights of the same sort of level. There's other prospects in play for the rest of the year, but this is the biggest fight left on the 2018 calendar. So it'll be interesting to see how it does on pay-per-view. Be interesting to see how much interest is there in this fight. And if you're from the UK, tell me, what's the interest like locally? Online, I'm not seeing as much interest as I would have thought, but you know, who knows, maybe it will pack up and whip up in the final few days. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.